So we will start now. A very warm welcome to everyone. I'm Dr. Rashmi Aradhya from Ladal and the MC for this event. Ladal India is very excited to host this virtual Sun event with the Department of Emergency Medicine, Kasturba Medical College, Mahe, Manipal. Let me give you a quick introduction to what is Sun, the Simulation User Network, and why do we conduct these events. Sun is a Ladal hosted simulation conference which are conducted across many countries. Due to the COVID pandemic this year, this event has completely gone online world over. And today's webinar is a part of that online series here in India. Sun primarily focuses on three aspects for the simulation communities across the globe: networking with peers and experts, best practices from the healthcare community, experts and leaders, and of course, hands-on training and education. For these online events, like what we've been doing this year, we focus on the first two, that is helping you network and bringing to you best practices. And in this webinar, Ladal India is collaborating with the Emergency Medicine Department of KMC Manipal to be able to bring to you some of the best practices which they've developed during this pandemic. Currently, airway management in emergency departments across India are based on guidelines developed in Western countries. The current global crisis of COVID increases the magnitude of risk posed to healthcare professionals as well as the support staff. Mitigation of this risk requires airway management to be an orchestrated exercise, and it should be firmly based on training and purposeful simulation with clear objectives. Role allocation and closed loop communication also form the foundation of this exercise. An eminent group of emergency medicine specialists from the Department of Emergency Medicine in KMC Manipal have developed, tested, and refined a new protocol for airway management, which can be translated to any and all emergency departments with the scope of managing critically ill patients requiring airway intervention. This protocol has been named as MIST, Modified Intubating Sequence for Transmissibility Bundle. The MIST bundle has recently been published in the Western Journal of Emergency Medicine. And today, we have with us two eminent members from the amazing team that developed the MIST bundle, Dr. Sanjana and Dr. Rachna. Dr. Sanjan and Dr. Rachna, I'm sorry for that. Dr. Sanjan is an MD in emergency medicine and since past 2 years been working at KMC Manipal. He is the main domain lead in skills training and clinical guidelines and has a special interest in POCUS, trauma and toxicology. Dr. Rachna is an MD in emergency medicine and is an alumnus of KMC Manipal and currently working at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. She was the clinical lead in quality at the KMC Manipal Hospital. She has recently won the ACEP Global Leader Award 2020 for building momentum for women leadership across emergency medicine field in India. And she has a special interest in POCUS, emergency medical administration and trauma. Before I hand it over to Dr. Sanjan and Dr. Rachna for taking us through the MIST bundle, let's go over some housekeeping rule for today's event. What we've done is we've muted all the participants. If any participant wants to ask a question, please use the question and answer section on your screen. It reads as Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Your questions will be answered at the end of the session by the speakers. However, a few of the questions will also be answered during the session in the chat box also by the speakers. Over to you, Dr. Sanjan and Dr. Rachna, to take us through the MIST bundle now.
Thank you, Dr. Rashmi, for the polite invitation and the introduction that you have given. A warm good evening to all. It's a pleasure from my side to take you through the first session of this webinar. So it's MIST bundle. It's a modifying intubating sequence for transmission for infections with aerosol hazard. So MIST bundle is a 10-step methodological approach which is developed for intratracheal intubation of patients with infections that can spread through aerosols. that can spread through aerosols like Nipah virus, coronavirus, then H1N1, MDR tuberculosis, and the recent corona infection and the Ebola virus. We have no financial disclosure or commercial endorsements to disclose for this presentation. Now, the basic agenda of this webinar will be to take you through the concept of MIS bundle for the initial 30 minutes. And this will be followed by a 50 minutes pre-recorded simulation video of the same concept. And at the end, you will have a post-session feedback questionnaire. Now, the basic principle of MIS bundle is close rapid sequence intubation with non-contaminating ventilation. Irrespective of the clinical severity of the patient, those patients who are requiring endotracheal intubation, it's always a clinical challenge for the clinicians to intubate such patients. It is a potential aerosol generating procedure that require careful and efficient approach to reduce the amount of, to safeguard the patient as well as the healthcare individuals. Now, in this approach, we have developed the concept of MIS bundle so that the transmission is minimized to the least. And there is no significant resource intensification has been made for the development of this concept. There is always a high chance for droplet spillage during the endotracheal intubation. Most of the transmission occurs due to droplet spread and direct contact with the patient or the fomites rather than airborne spread. The healthcare workers who are involved in the management of patients are at high risk of contracting this illness, especially when they're managing infectious diseases like COVID-19 or Nipah virus or the Ebola virus. Now, this bundle approach is intended to address the potential weak links and the possibilities of the spread. Now, the care zone the care area has been divided into different zones to control the source of infection and to prevent it. 3 different zones has been developed for this one: hot zone, warm zone, and the cold zone. The hot zone in the red area, which is shown in the figure, it involves the initial 3 meter that encircles the patient. And it's an area where the actual management of the patient takes place, where all the team members will be in PPE. Now, the cold zone is the outermost non-contaminated area, which is represented in green color. It's area where the dawning takes place, and you also have the equipments and other resources in case if you want to manage the patient later on. And the warm zone is a zone between the hot zone and the cold zone, where the team leader oversees the entire procedure, and you also have the area for doffing and also for decontamination process of the waste that gets soiled during the time of endotracheal intubation. Now, those who are not involved in the management of the patient should not go unnecessarily into the hot zone without adequate PPE. The minimum members that are required for the endotracheal intubation of patients with infectious diseases are kept to a minimum of 3. You need an intubator, a registered nurse, and a respiratory therapist. The intubator should be the most experienced person who should be involved in managing the airway of the patient. The registered nurse will be in charge of the drugs, and she'll be taking care of the IV access and also watch the monitors during the whole process of intubation. And the respiratory therapist assembles the equipments that are required for the airway management and also take care of the ventilator. The team leader, who is positioned in the warm zone, oversees the entire procedure with a checklist that's provided to him, and also he alerts the team members if there is any breach of protocol or infection control practice. And there is a runner who is a second physician or a resident who will be standing outside the care zone in the green area, and he will be called in if any help is required, and he should be equipped with all the resources. All team members in the team should be careful about the plan, like what has to be done for the such particular patient, and the role should be assigned to each of the members by the team leader so as to avoid confusion during the care of the patient. Now, the team members who are involved in the management of the patient will be in PP, and it's hard to work in PP. So always encourage a closed loop communication so that it's clear. The whole process of uh, intubation will be clear to everyone. And the communication should be clear, it should be short, and it should be loud enough. Now, if there is a problem in communicating with each other, like suppose, especially when the team members are from different areas of care, it's always better to notify their role on the PP or the visor using pen or like a permanent marker, such as like you can mention it as like a respiratory therapist as RT, registered nurse as RM, and the intubator as I. Now, the most important part of the MIST bundle has been made into a checklist. And this checklist will be taken by the team leader, and he oversees the entire procedure with the checklist. Now, this checklist has been designed incorporating all the phases of MIST bundle in different phases, and each phase has been color coded with different colors so that each phase happens in particular zone, and the roles and responsibilities of each team members has been mentioned clearly in the checklist that's been provided here. Now we'll go to the important phase of the MIST bundle. The whole concept of MIST bundle has been made into 10 different phases. The initial pre-assessment, pre-briefing, preparatory phase, and the personal protection phase happens in the cold zone. The rest of the phase happens in the red zone, except the post-procedure doffing and the decontamination phase, which happens in the warm zone. Now, in the pre-assessment phase, the team leader who is in charge of taking care of the patient will go through all the available data and reassess the risk and benefit of intubation and ventilation of such patient. It's not that we go and intubate all the patient. He'll be reviewing the risk and benefit ratio, and then takes a call on intubation of such patient. Now, after the pre-assessment phase, the team leader has to brief the entire plan of endotracheal intubation to the members who are involved in the management of the patient before entering the hot zone with the PPE, and give adequate time to all members to clarify any queries before going into the actual care area. Now, if there is any breach of the protocol, the team leader can ask the members to stop and reassess, and he monitors the entire process with the checklist provided to him. Now, at the end, the team leader encourages everyone. He thanks all the team members for participating in management of the patient and encourage reliable and prompt decision-making action. Now, success of every procedure depends upon the preparatory phase. Now, in this preparatory phase, we focus on the setting up of ventilator and also a trolley for management, airway management of the patient, which includes airway equipments and drugs for rapid sequence intubation and emergency management of the patient. Now, the ventilator has been set for pre-oxygenation, and it has been set in CPAP mode, that is continuous positive airway pressure mode, with non-invasive ventilation mask for pre-oxygenation of the patient. And the pre-oxygenation should be meticulous, and it should be done for 3 to 5 minutes until you achieve a saturation of more than 90 to 95%. Now, ventilator has been set to a pressure support of 0 centimeters of water. Now, why 0 centimeters of water is to reduce the amount of aerosol containing the viral particle to dispose into the atmosphere during pre-oxygenation. The PEEP is kept to a minimum of 5 centimeters of water, and it can be adjusted as per the requirement. You can titrate it upwards until you reach a saturation of more than 90 to 95%. And FiO2 is kept to a default of 100% for all patients during the pre-oxygenation time. At the end, you deselect the apnea setting so that it does not go to the apnea mode during the pre-oxygenation time. Now, it is a responsibility of the respiratory therapist to assemble the entire ventilator with its circuit. Now, in this figure, you can see like the ventilator has been set, and you need 3 viral filters to connect to the port, to the ventilator port, and to the tubings. And another viral filter will be kept between the Y tubing and the NIV mask. The details of this will be shown in the pre-recorded simulation video, which will happen after this presentation. Now, the most important part in this one is look for steady connection, check for possible leaks and disconnection, as minute leak itself can generate a lot of aerosols and can contaminate the atmosphere. This shows the list of equipments that is required for intubation of patients with infectious disease. Now, you require an intubation unit. We'll come across like what is intubation unit later on. You need laryngoscope of different sizes, a lubricant gel for lubricating the cuff of endotracheal tube, gloves of different sizes, stethoscope to confirm the position of endotracheal tube after intubation, a tube fixator to secure the endotracheal tube, Ziploc bags of 5 in number to dispose the soiled equipments during endotracheal intubation. Then equipments for IV access. The drug should be loaded and it should be labeled. Then as a rescue airway management, we place iGel and LMA of different sizes, endotracheal tube of smaller size, OP and NPA. Now in this figure, we have kept equipments, rescue airway equipments like LMA and endotracheal tube of smaller size in a Ziploc bag and OP and NPA in Ziploc bag. So this is to minimize the use of resources, and it should be opened only if it is required. This can be used later on after proper disinfection method. Now this figure shows the intubating unit. This intubating unit consists of an endotracheal tube, a catheter mount, a bougie, and a pre-filled air syringe. Now how we assemble this is, to the universal port of the endotracheal tube, we attach one end of the catheter mount, and to the other end of the catheter mount, we place a viral filter so as to reduce the amount of aerosols going into the atmosphere. And through the suction port of catheter mount, we pass a bougie. It goes and it is advanced till the tip of the endotracheal tube. And a pre-filled 5 cc air syringe is attached to the pilot balloon of the endotracheal tube. Now, advantage of this assembly is to have high first pass success rate for endotracheal intubation. Like in most of the critically ill patient, the first pass success rate has been found to be less than 80%. Now, this method might improve the first pass success rate during endotracheal intubation. Now, the registered nurse will be in charge of drugs, and they will be loading the pre-calculated dose of drugs, and it has to be labeled properly. Now, for our MIS bundle, we have used etoposide and ketamine as an inducing agent and draconium as a skeletal muscle relaxant for paralysis of the patient. Now, ensure one most important thing that you have to keep is the vasopressor infusion of bolus as a backup to manage the hypotension that may happen following endotracheal intubation. And if there are enough resources, you can also keep syringe pumps for sedation and relaxation for post-intubation management, and also vasopressors if the patient's hemodynamics unstable. Now, the most important part of any procedure is the preparation. As Abraham Graham Bell has said, before anything else, preparation is the key to success. If you prepare well, you will be definitely successful in any of the procedure. So always give enough time to prepare for any procedure before going to manage the patient. Even in an emergency situation, including cardiac arrest, the team members who are involved in the management of the patient should go in only after recommended PP, which is being given by the Hospital Infection Control Committee policy. Now, without proper PP, you should not risk yourself to go in and manage the patient. And it's a responsibility of the team leader to ensure, and it should be checked before all the team members go for actual management of the patient. Now, until the PP phase, all the preparations, everything happens in the cold zone. Now, with the pre-medication phase, all the team members will be going into the hot zone where actual management of the patient takes place. Here, either the respiratory therapist or the registered nurse pushes in the trolley that's containing all the equipments as well as a drug to the side of the patient. And the respiratory therapist should ensure adequate positioning of the patient as well as a trolley according to the comfort level of the intubator. Now, it's a responsibility of the registered nurse to ensure there is a patent IV access if it is available. If it is not available, then they should secure a new one. Now, if the patient is agitated, he or she can get the help of registered respiratory therapist or the intubator to secure an IV access, either by physical restraints or by calming down the patients by giving medications. Now, for proper monitoring of the patient, the registered nurse should attach the monitors like ECG leads and saturation probe and ensure that hemodynamic monitoring happens in real time through the whole process of endotracheal intubation. During the pre-medication phase, depending upon the hemodynamics of the patient, the intubator advises the registered nurse to give the pre-calculated dose of pre-medication agents like fentanyl and lignocaine. This is important to be administered just before pre-oxygenation to avoid struggling and coughing while keeping the non-invasive mask over the face of the patient. In the pre-oxygenation phase, as an initial step, the respiratory therapist should ensure the suction unit has been properly connected and a Yanko suction with a wall mount suction unit should be available and it should be placed at the head of the patient. The similar thing can be seen in the figure which is shown below. Now, the use of suction in infectious disease should be very judicious and should be very careful as it generates a lot of aerosols. And if the tip of suction unit has been used during the endotracheal intubation to clear the airway, then the tip has to be kept inside Ziploc bag so as to reduce the deposition of aerosols and also the fomites that can contaminate the atmosphere and the team members who are involved in the management. Meanwhile, at the head end, the intubator places the NIV mask, which has been fitted to a viral filter, after ensuring proper sealing without any air leak. He advises the respiratory therapist to keep the ventilator in the standby mode, which has been already preset to the CPAP mode with a pressure support of 0 and PO 5 centimeters of water. Now, during any procedure, always encourage closed-loop communication so that all the team members will be in loop, and the registered nurse checks the vitals and saturation of monitor, and they communicate with the intubator and team leader if anything goes wrong. Now, here we use NIV mask instead of back mask ventilation, so that in case of back mask ventilation, just because of the positive pressure, the aerosols, the air from the expired air, the viral particle that's present in the expired air can leak through the sides of mask and it can spread to the atmosphere. This can be reduced with the use of NIV mask with a pressure support of 0 and PEEP as per the requirement to maintain a saturation of 90 to 95. And the pre-oxygenation should be done meticulously for 3 to 5 minutes until you reach a saturation of 90 to 95%. Now, after the pre-oxygenation phase, when the saturation is attained, the intubator assesses the patient for any difficult airway If there is a difficult airway, he or she should call for help. If it is not there, they can proceed with the induction phase to go ahead with further steps of intubation. In this, the registered nurse administers the pre-calculated dose of inducing agent, where we use etomidate or ketamine, followed by a paralytic agent like procuronium for complete paralysis of the patient. After adequate paralysis, the patient is positioned appropriately to maximize the safe apnea time, and this depends upon the habitus of the patient and the body stature. And at the same time, the registered nurse should keep a watch on saturation and hemodynamic instability. If there is any problem with the hemodynamics, they should verbalize it to the intubator and to the team leader. Now, once the intubator ensures adequate paralysis, the respiratory therapist puts the ventilator on the standby mode. Only after ensuring that it has been kept in standby mode, the mask is being disconnected by the intubator and it is handed over the respiratory therapist. And this mask, which is soiled with the droplets, will be kept in a Ziploc bag without touching any surface or outside of the bag. Now, while the intubator do a quick atraumatic laryngoscopy, the respiratory therapist keeps the intubating unit ready, and also they keep the ventilator in assist control mode of ventilation for final ventilation of the patient. And now, once the intubator is able to pass the bougie between the cord under direct visualization, the respiratory therapist will assist in railroading the endotracheal tube through the bougie once the intubator asks to do so. Then the respiratory therapist will remove the bougie and will dispose of the predisposition system, which is shown in the figure. This predisposition, the preset disposition system, it's a PVC pipe which is sealed at the bottom and it's open at the top end, which can be covered with a lid, and it is filled with 2% sodium hypochlorite solution. So this preset disposition system is basically used for decontaminating the bougie that is used during endotracheal intubation. Now, once the tube has been passed beyond the vocal cord and the bougie has been taken out, the registered nurse will inflate the cuff with pre-filled air syringe with 5 centimeters of air. Now, this is a figure where the bougie is being discarded in the preset disposition system on the left-hand side, where the respiratory therapist disposes it into the preset disposition system. Now, after this, it's a peri-intubation phase where the respiratory therapist starts the ventilator from standby mode to the assist control mode, and the position of tube is confirmed by the respiratory therapist with the help of a stethoscope by 5-point auscultation. And if the stethoscope is used for this one, it has to be disposed in the Ziploc bag. Now, with the COVID time, they said that even the visible chest rise is enough to confirm the position of endotracheal tube. Now, after this, fix the endotracheal tube with a tube fixator at 22 centimeters for males and 20 centimeters for female. This is not a blanket rule. It may change depending upon the habitus of the patient. Just before going to the post-intubation phase, if the resources are available, we recommend the use of video laryngoscope for intubation and also end-tidal carbon dioxide for a confirmation of the endotracheal tube. Now, once intubation is done, you assess for hemodynamic stability of the patient, check for oxygen saturation, and also check for the ventilator graphics. Initiate early sedation and paralysis as it improves the synchrony with the ventilator and it will have a very good outcome for the patient. Now, before everything is done, you have to ensure it is disposed properly before leaving the room. And doffing happens in the order where the first intubator goes to the warm zone, then followed by the respiratory therapist and the registered nurse. And all the equipments which are soiled with the droplets has to be disposed of properly in the decontamination zone. So that's all with the concept of Miss Bundle. Now, The same concept has been published in Western Journal of Emergency Medicine in the month of August. Though we say about 10 steps of 10 phases of MIST bundle in this presentation, we have condensed this into 6 steps for during the publication time. So that's all with it. Thank you for patient listening. Now these are the references that has been used for the development of this concept. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Rachna. I'm one of the panelists for this webinar. So thank you, Sanjun, for such an elaborative and informative presentation. Just to reinforce the same things which we have heard in the presentation, let's quickly move to the pre-recorded simulation video. Once we go through that, we will definitely answer whatever queries and questions you have after watching the pre-recorded video. COVID-19 poses an unforeseen challenge for the healthcare workers working in close proximity of patients, putting themselves at highest risk, especially during intubation. Hence, it requires planning, preparation, and curriculum changes, which is going to replace the hitherto training and implementation practices among the healthcare professionals. To mitigate the exposure during intubation, we developed the concept of MIST bundle, that is Modified Intubating Sequence for Transmissibility Bundle for infections with aerosol hazard. It is a 10-step methodical approach of endotracheal intubation that can be used for infections such as suspected COVID, H1N1, MDR tuberculosis or Nipah virus. This approach does not involve significant resource intensification but makes the practices bundled in such a way that the transmission of infection and spillage of droplets during intubation for the healthcare workers is minimized to the least. For the benefit of viewers, the timeline of procedures in the video have been streamed slowly for better visualization. However, during the actual patient care, the same procedures will occur in an accelerated time of scale. The patient care area will be divided as hot, warm and cold zones. The hot zone will be in the 3-meter radius of the patient. The transition between hot and cold zone will be the warm zone, and the non-contaminated area beyond the warm zone will be the cold zone. The intubating team consists of the intubating doctor, registered nurse and the respiratory therapist who will be stationed in the hot zone. Team leader who will be overviewing the process will be stationed in the warm zone. The registered nurse manages the drug tray, administers drugs, and is involved in the proper disposal of biomedical waste. He or she will also monitor vitals and vocalize the same for the team. The intubating doctor is the most experienced person in the team who performs intubation. The respiratory therapist manages airway equipment and assists the intubating doctor in the process of intubation. A second resident or a nurse will be stationed in the cold zone who will act as a runner and get any extra equipment if needed. The ventilator is set to a CPAP mode with pressure support of 0 and PEEP of minimum 5, which may be titrated up with regards to the patient condition. FiO2 is set to 100% and the apnea backup mode is deselected. Check if all the ports of the ventilator are connected properly and sealed tightly. A viral filter is connected between the Y connector and the NIV mask. To prepare an intubating unit, we will require an ET tube of size 7 or 7.5, a catheter mount, a bougie, lubricating jelly, and a pre-filled air syringe. At first, ensure that the ET tube cuff is intact. Once this is ensured, attach the catheter mount to the ET tube. Now, insert the lubricated bougie through the suction port of the catheter mount into the ET tube. Once this is done, attach the pre-filled air syringe to the pilot balloon of the ET tube. So here our intubating unit is ready. The infection control nurse check if the personal protective equipment are donned properly and ensures adequate corrections are made before entering the warm zone. Enough time to be spent where patient details, planning of intubation, potential complications, and team roles are clarified, and outstanding questions to be answered before entering the room for intubation. Ensure that the suction is fully functional with the end of Yankauer suction enclosed in a Ziploc bag and kept in the reaching distance of the intubating doctor. Check if the patient has an IV access and ensure the patency. Attach chest leads, pulse oximeter and NIBP for continuous monitoring of vital signs. Optimize the working space around the patient and keep the head end slightly propped up. The NIV mask is placed and held directly on the patient's mouth and nose with the double C clamp technique. Once the mask is airtight, ventilator is switched on from standby mode to the preset CPAP mode. The team leader is positioned in the warm zone to ensure that the intubation occurs with recommended checklist for mist bundle without any breach of infection control practices. The patient should be pre-oxygenated for a total of 3 to 5 minutes. The cardiovascular status of the patient is monitored, and if required, vasopressor infusion therapy may be initiated depending on the hemodynamics. The registered nurse notifies the team leader regarding the change in vitals. After adequate pre-oxygenation, in closed rapid sequence intubation, the pre-decided inducing agent and muscle relaxant are given rapidly. nurse monitors the rhythm and vitals and watches for any desaturation. Ensure complete paralysis of the patient. The ventilator is now kept on the standby mode. The NIV mask is removed and placed in a Ziploc bag held by the registered nurse. The Ziploc bag is then sealed and kept aside. The intubator now attempts intubation with laryngoscope and the intubating unit supported by the respiratory therapist. After visual confirmation of the endotracheal tube insertion, the registered nurse inflates ET tube cuff to prevent aerosolization. The bougie is removed and the respiratory therapist disposes it into a preset disposition system containing 1% sodium hypochlorite solution. The respiratory therapist now connects the breathing circuit to the ET tube. All the connections are checked for any leaks and the ventilation is then started. The tube position may be confirmed by visible chest rise and 5-point auscultation. However, the preferred technique is waveform capnography if available. After the auscultation, the stethoscope is disposed into a Ziploc bag for disinfection. ET tube is then secured with a tube fixator. The laryngoscope, which was previously placed in the sterile tray, is also disposed into a Ziploc bag along with the tray for disinfection. At this phase, an infusion for sedation and/or paralytic drugs may be initiated. A nasogastric tube may be inserted if indicated. Just a word to all the participants there who have probably worked in an ER setting or ICU setting, who are watching the video and getting all jittery that this is not how the situation is in an ER or in a ICU where a pleasant music is playing in the background and everything is calm and the patient gives you a lot of time, the patient is completely silent. We have given a probable warning in the beginning itself that we have done it in a very slow time frame so that the steps are very clear to the people who are actually seeing it. I know that this is exactly not the situation. About how things go, probably me and Sanjan would describe it as we answer your questions. I think just wanted to say this because as I was watching it, I was thinking, oh, no, this is not how it is when the patient is in the ER or an ICU. Yeah, so we'll take the questions right now.
So we have a question from Dr. Roshan. In case of a difficult intubation, unable to pass intubating unit, what will be the next step?
Though even though it's beyond the realm of discussion, I'll tell you like what the background plan we had in our mind while developing this MIST bundle. So as for rescue airway management, we place like a LMA or the iGel for oxygenation and ventilation of the patient and call for help. Now, if you are like an expert airway specialist who's available, who's the only person who's available for intubation of such patient, now where you have difficult oxygenation and like can't oxygenate, can't ventilate scenario, you can go for front of neck approach where you place a 5 centimeter incision on the cricothyroid membrane and also perpendicular incision to it. And you place the bougie along with the endotracheal tube through that pathway, preferably of smaller size, probably around like 7 and 7.5 through that front of neck approach and oxygenate the patient. Now, this is a high risk procedure because it generates a lot of aerosols and all the droplets are gone spillage. Now, it's very easy to say, but this is a plan which we had in our mind. Now, Dr. Regina, if you want to add something else, you can.
Regarding the resources, I think Sanjan explained what would be the plan B and plan C. Regarding resources, how to procure, I would just like to add a couple of points. The problem is whatever equipment you are going to take into the hot zone is going to be eventually contaminated and will require a decontamination process. So the more amount of equipment you take into the room, and obviously if it's a simple intubation, you're not going to use all of them. So the decontamination process will actually make the procedure a little complicated. So our plan was to keep it in the cold zone and have a runner over there. So in case you anticipate that intubation is not going to be possible, or after the first attempt you feel that probably you'll have to go for a surgical airway, then probably you can notify the same to the runner who can get the equipment to you. Meanwhile, you can go back to pre-oxygenation, or as Sanjan rightly mentioned, you can put in an LMA and continue oxygenating the patient. So this was somewhere we took a mid path so that we do not give a burden of decontamination. At the same time, we have just adequate equipments to conduct intubation, which is not very complicated. That was the plan. I mean, the idea behind keeping only limited equipments in that intubation trolley.
Thanks so much, Dr. Rachna and Dr. Sanjay for that. And there's a related question that Dr. Vaishnavi Pemaraju is asking. What she's saying is, I wanted to ask, like ET intubation, other procedures generating aerosol like NIV, what could be the measures to overcome this?
Okay. Do you want to? Yeah, Regina, go ahead.
Okay. So again, this is probably beyond MIST bundle, but again, I think Sanjan was also involved. We have worked on something similar during the pandemic. It's not in the realm of MIST bundle, but we have worked on other low-cost resources for limiting aerosol spread in the ER. One of them was Be Safe. It's a tented isolation for beds, and there was another called 4T, that is a tented transport trolley for transmissibility. It's just a simple trolley using PVC pipes and transparent plastic, which we were using in our ER for patients who we did not want to intubate at the same time use NIV. So it was like a barrier enclosure around the patient bed. So in addition to the HME viral filter we were using with the NIV. So I think this will be shortly published in IJCCM. It has already been accepted. So probably you will get to see some of the prototypes of the same that time.
Well, looking forward to that one, Dr. Rachna. Dr. Roshan Garg asks, auscultation of chest is not advisable. So looking for bilateral chest expansion, ETCO2, SpO2, post-intubation. What's your opinion? So he's asking for your opinion.
Sanjan?
Yeah, the same thing I have mentioned in my webinar too. So during this pandemic, it's always risky to osculate the patient. It's gonna soil your equipments. and you have to disinfect the stethoscope, which is not easy thing to do. So we also prefer like visible chest rise, and that's why I said at the end, the most preferred technique is to attach an ETCO to the end of endotracheal tube to see for the ETCO2 waveform. So that's the best method to confirm the position. But again, disinfecting ETCO2 is another concern. I don't know how to answer that one.
Also, at the same time, we've noticed that many smaller centers, which are catering to COVID-19 patients at present, do not have a video laryngoscope or ETCO2 facility available. So we didn't want them to think that this is some resource intense bundle which requires video laryngoscope or ETCO2. So we wanted to provide an alternate. Definitely, if your center has an ETCO2 or if you have an ultrasound with the cover which you can take and confirm your intubation through that, it's going to be definite gold standard. But at the same time, smaller centers who do not have ETCO2 or video laryngoscope should not feel that probably they don't have any measures to um, like manage such patients or like minimize aerosol contamination. So that is the reason we provided, we put stethoscope specifically in our bundle. So yeah.
Yes, thanks for that. Dr. Sadhna Kulkarni is asking you, what are the 3 sides of the filters used? I didn't quite get that, but so would you
Yeah.
want to take? Yes, please.
So Sanjan, if you want, since you've already explained.
Yeah, so 3 viral filters, you have to connect to the tubings where you connect to the ventilators, 2 tubings where you connect to the ventilator ports, and 1 viral filter between the white tubing and the NIV mask. So those are the 3 areas where you keep the viral filter.
Okay, thanks for that. Dr. Ashok Kumar Badamali is asking, in a COVID ICU or HDU, auscultation with conventional stethoscope is a risk for the healthcare provider, as he or she would be has to uncover the PPE hood to be able to insert the earpiece. So, what's your opinion on that, or your take on that?
We actually, before putting this into the bundle, we have tried auscultation, where we tried to put the earbuds over the PP rather than putting it, like removing the PP hood and putting it. We tried over the PP. It's definitely not the best way. Like obviously you cannot appreciate finer details, but I think just whether the air entry is present or not, uh, the sounds are feeble, but it's enough to just appreciate that whether the air entry is present or not. So after trying this, we put it in the bundle. So we were putting the earpiece over the hood, not inside it. So I think that should answer Dr. Ashok's question.
That's good to know. Yes, thanks,
Yeah.
Dr. Rachna. And Dr. Archana Nair asks, COVID patients coming with room air, SpO2 on room air of 30 to 40%, even after adequate pre-oxygenation, SpO2 doesn't rise more than 80%, raises a concern of peri-intubation arrest. Any other methods to reduce this risk of hypoxia or arrest? Hypoxia. Yes.
Sanjan, do you want to take it?
Um, yeah, in the technique of mist bundle, what we suggest is use of NIV mask with a pressure support of 0 and PEEP of adequate. You can go up to around like 20, 30 to reach a level of saturation of 90. Now, with a patient who is coming in extremis with saturation of 30%, I know it's very difficult to get a pre-oxygenation with an SpO2 greater than 90%. Now, other alternative, I think, which we can use is use of iGel or LMA to just pre-oxygenate. But again, the risk of aerosol generation is very high during that pre-oxygenation time. Yeah, That's it. Anything else to add from Rajana? Now, this.
I think, Sanjan told it, like, if you consider non-COVID times when you're intubating such a patient, we go in and intubate such patients even at 80, 85. We know that there is a risk of peri-intubation hypoxic arrests in such patients, but we know that just with I think NIV is the best method to pre-oxygenate such patients. Even in a otherwise hypoxic patient in non-COVID times, we would suggest NIV pre-oxygenation. And in spite of 100% FiO2 and adequate PEEP with NIV, if you're not able to achieve after a adequate duration, probably you'll have to take the risk and go ahead and intubate such patients and then probably ventilate. So it is similar to what we used to do in non-COVID times, probably nothing specific for a COVID patient, which I can think of at this point of time.
Okay. We have another very interesting question from Dr. Ashok Kumar Badmali. He's asking maximum gap between two beds in an ER might be about 2 meters. So he thinks that the whole unit actually comes under the definition of the red zone. You know, if you look at the MIST bundle's definition of red, yellow, and green zone. So how would you want to answer that?
What we have tried to do in our ER we started the process even before COVID-19. What we had tried to do is we put some barriers between two beds. Barriers can be very simple. Again, it's not pertaining to MIST bundle. Just because the question came up, I'm trying to answer. I know the MIST bundle ground markings are in an ideal setting, probably where you have adequate space and not a very crowded ER or an ICU setting. So, but in case your ER is very crowded, probably we can have some barriers between the beds, which could be like simple, like a barrier which we use otherwise, or using just plastic sheets or PVC pipes, etc. So in our ER, we have segregated each bed with the barriers. So that's the reason we didn't face such an issue. But otherwise, yeah, I understand that is a concern in many of the EVs.
Yes, especially the crowded ERs. I think that's definitely a concern, and I think that's also food for thought for Dr. Sanjay and Dr. Rachna and the rest of the team, like, you know, at KMC, to sort of, you know, really go back and think about this one. How do you circumvent this kind of a challenge? Yes, so we have Dr. Siddha S.C. Rao asking you, it's actually a suggestion from his side. He's saying that many discussions have come and what you've described and shown are good. So it's a compliment to you. There's also a suggestion, I think, from Dr. Prakash Ambardekar. I agree about no stethoscope. You may put the ET tube up to black line will help us too.
Visualize the ET tube to confirm the position.
Yes, and then there's also a suggestion from Dr. Indranil Das. Bedside ultrasound can replace stethoscope. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. It's a novel method which we use actually to confirm the position of even like a difficult Ryle's tube insertion, endotracheal intubation. So that's a novel method which, if it is available. Now, why we doesn't mention that in the MIST bundle, because as like Rajana said, this bundle has been made in such a way that even the smaller hospitals will be able to manage such patients who do not have all the resources. So definitely I agree with you. Lung ultrasound, it's a definite method, and airway ultrasound can confirm the position of endotracheal
Another, sorry, Rashmi. So another thing is most of our ERs have only one ultrasound machine. So once you know that you have used it for a suspect or a COVID positive patient, again, the complete decontamination of that ultrasound and using was a challenge which we faced initially. But I think after some time into the pandemic, we were finally able to procure the second ultrasound, which we could use for the suspect and COVID patients. So once that was there, definitely, as Dr. Indranil mentioned, that's an ideal way where we can probably save ourselves and at the same time ensure that the tube is at the right place.
There's another suggestion from Dr. Indranil. Actually, there are two suggestions from him. One is about we can use continuous nasal cannula oxygen, and that this will reduce the hypoxia and improve the dead space. Your take on it?
Yeah, the concern was like during the COVID time, it's been said that like use of nasal prongs generate a lot of aerosols. That's why we keep during the, I know it's actually safe during the apnea time for the pre-oxygenation, during the pre-oxygenation period. But just because of aerosol generations, we have not included in the mist bundle.
Do you want to add something, Dr. Rachna?
No, I think he's done it. Like, nothing else. Yeah.
All right. So there's another question from Dr. Ashok Kumar Badmali. What about extubation, as there will be risk of patient coughing and aerosol generation following the tube removal? Any suggestions in the mist bundle? I know that mist bundle is all about intubation and not about extubation, but this is definitely a very interesting question for both of you.
Yeah, I think like we are ER physicians, so most of the times we are bothered about intubating and we don't think much about extubation. We leave it to the critical care physicians. So as probably sir also mentioned, and even Rashmi mentioned, that the mist bundle was mainly designed keeping in mind regarding intubation. We haven't actually designed anything specific for extubation, because ED extubations are relatively rare. Definitely, there have been literature where they're using various techniques, mostly towards the anesthesia literature, where they are mentioning a few techniques to limit aerosolization during extubation, but nothing as such to address that in mist bundle per se.
We have another question, or rather, it's more like a suggestion, I think, from Dr. Ashok Kumar Badmali, who says that there's a startup in IIT Mumbai which has a product called Ayur Sync, which is a Bluetooth enabled stetho connected to an HCP mobile, and the sound is audible. And the product was available during Criticare 2020. And would that have any role to play in MIST, you know, instead of using an actual stethoscope?
I'm not sure. I've not seen this one without. I don't know what to comment on this one. Definitely, if it's useful, like any new technologies are always welcome. Now, if you're able to hear from a distance, well and good without touching the patient.
We have another question from an anonymous attendee. Is there any role of clamping the ET tube before attaching or detaching to the ventilator in the mist bundle?
In the mist bundle, we have attached a catheter mount, and this catheter mount is already been clamped to a, it's been attached to a viral filter. Hope that reduces the amount of aerosol generation. And also like bougie has been already into the endotracheal tube. Now clamping of ET tube just before the connection, it's a good suggestion. It can definitely reduce the amount of aerosols coming out through the ET tube. But like in our mist bundle, what we did is like all the ports which are open to the ET tube are closed, except the one which has to be connected to the tubing. Definitely, you can use a clamp to reduce the amount of aerosol generation.
Wonderful. Thank you for answering the questions, Dr. Sanjan and Dr. Rachna. I see that it's been an hour and a half into the webinar already. Is there any parting sort of advice that you would want to give our participants before? So any advice regarding MIST or otherwise to our participants, like, you know?
Thing is like the whole concept of mist bundle is to is that like to reduce the amount of aerosol generation during the time of intubation, and so that the risk of transmission of infections to all healthcare workers are kept to the minimum. And this thing can be used in any settings with minimum resources. that was a whole concept of Miss Bundle. Like any changes can be made with any of the steps depending upon the availability of the resources. Yeah. Hope this can be used for disease with infections that can transmit through aerosols.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes. So the aims of this webinar have been high, dear participants and from the panelists as well as the emergency department at KMC Manipal and Laral. Our chairman says, an innovation is only as good as its impact. Whether an innovation is a service, is a methodology, is a product, whatever it is only as good as the impact that is able to create. An innovation can create impact only when it is implemented well. And I think this webinar aims to sort of ensure that Miss Bundle is sort of taken up at a larger scale, to be implemented by emergency departments across India. Your presence today shows a strong commitment of yours to the work related to airway management in critically ill patients. And we hope for a higher uptake of the Miss Bundle across emergency departments. You're welcome to reach out to the speakers on their emails. As we end today's Sun event, on behalf of Laral and KMC Manipal, I would really want to thank every one of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join this webinar. In particular, I would want to express sincere gratitude to our wonderful speakers, Dr. Sanjan and Dr. Rachna, for sharing the Miss Bundle and answering the questions of our participants. And a special thanks to the entire team working behind the scenes to make this webinar a possibility. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Bye-bye. Good evening.